Well, we want to kind of jump back in because we got to finish talking about this stuff going on over in Iran, and it'll be a story to be talked about over many, many weeks now because we got to wait and see what's going to happen next. But of course, last week, very dramatically, Qasem Soleimani, the supreme military commander in the state of Iran, was assassinated. Now, he was assassinated in Baghdad, Iraq. Now, I wanted to share a couple of things with you that you may not be aware of. And one, you'll hear the media tell you that he was the head of the Quds Force. That's Quds, Quds Force. And, of course, that's a transliteration of either the Arabic or the Farsi, depending on who's saying Quds. But I wanted to point something out that the media often won't tell you, and that is, do you know what Quds means? Because they don't often tell you. You think, oh, the Quds Force, that must mean like the special forces or something. No. Quds means Jerusalem. So he was the leader of their most special forces, and their most special forces in Iran is called the Jerusalem Force. Jerusalem is Al-Quds in Arabic. So, again, wonder why that might be. I mean, does the naming of it tell you anything about their intentions of what this force is to be used for? Could it be used to, as the Iranians have long said they want to do, try to wipe Israel off the map? That's something to think about, folks. When you're talking about who we're dealing with here, that's something to think about. Now, this man, Qasem Soleimani, had been greatly empowered by the 2015 Iran nuclear deal made by Barack Hussein Obama's administration, in which Iran got released to them between 75 and 150 billion, depending on who you listen to, of funds that they could then use to train and equip these terrorists. They also got pallets of cash, if you'll remember, and nothing's more valuable than cash. Cash is king, after all. They got $1.7 or $1.8 billion in cash delivered to them. So wonder what that money went towards. Well, we know exactly what it went towards. It went towards these operations, these military operations through terrorist proxies that they've been conducting throughout the Middle East, and particularly in the Shia crescent of Iran, Iraq, and Syria. Now, we wanted to share another detail with you, and this is one that I haven't heard reported in the mainstream media, and I think this one is interesting, and you may find it interesting too, and that's exactly how was Qasem Soleimani killed, because he was not killed by an explosion. You may have heard that he was hit by some kind of a bomb. Well, he was hit by a missile, but interestingly enough, he was hit by a missile that is the Hellfire RX-9 missile that can be launched from a Predator drone or other types of drones that we use. But in this case, my understanding is they were using a Predator drone at about 50,000 feet. That's 10 miles up. That's a lot higher than most commercial aircraft fly, which tend to fly in the 35,000-foot zone. So this drone was so far up that if you're on the ground, you never would have seen it. You wouldn't have heard it. There would have been no way for you to even see something this size at 50,000 feet. Well, they fired a Hellfire RX-9 missile, which is a variant of a Hellfire that's called colloquially the Ninja Bomb. The Hellfire is about 5 feet long, and instead of having an explosive warhead on the end of it, you'll love this. This bomb has got a specialized warhead that contains 6 blades, 6 ninja sword blades that literally come out, and it's like one of those blenders, that you think about on your countertop in your kitchen. They literally come out and spin around at a very high speed and just completely eviscerate the target. Now, this bomb is so accurate that it can actually hit a passenger in a car on the left side or the right side, depending on which side the target is on. The blades come out, spin around, make mincemeat of the bad guy, and actually the other passengers in the car will not be killed. That's how accurate this particular missile is. So this Hellfire RX-9 Ninja Bomb that was used on Qasem Soleimani was one of our most accurate and lethal military weapons for taking out just a single person, a single target. And that's why you find that the way that they identified the body was actually his hand, and I've seen a photo of it. You may have as well. You can find it on Twitter if you're interested in looking at this kind of thing. It's pretty graphic. But his body was cut into many, many small pieces, and they were able to identify a hand by a particular ring that he wore. It's quite a large ring with a red stone. Again, you can go and find it on Twitter if you're interested in looking at that kind of thing. And that's how they were able to identify and conclusively determine that they did, in fact, take out Qasem Soleimani. Now, the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei, or as Mason used to say, Khamenei, has already replaced Qasem Soleimani with someone named Esmail Ghani, who's now Iran's most senior military leader. And Ali Khamenei has said that he was going to do 3 days of mourning, so that should be over as of today, and then they were going to respond to this attack. Now, already over some of the Iranian mosques, a red flag of jihad has been raised. So a lot of people are saying, oh, Iran's going to do something violent, do something militarily. And maybe they will. I mean, maybe they want to push the envelope here. I would suggest to them that that might not be the smartest thing to do when you've got Donald J. Trump sitting in the White House. And in fact, President Trump himself suggested on Twitter, again, he has to work through Twitter because he can't count on the mainstream media to convey any of his messages accurately. But I want to read you his tweets because I think it's very interesting. He says, Iran is talking very boldly about targeting certain USA assets as revenge for our ridding the world of their terrorist leader who had just killed an American and badly wounded many others, not to mention all the people he had killed over his lifetime, including recently hundreds of Iranian protesters. Just to break for a moment, you remember they just had those protests in Iran, and they killed about 1,500 of their own people who were protesting the regime. So this is not a good regime that's in place. They don't let people speak freely and hold protests. They don't believe in freedom of speech and freedom of thought like we do here in the United States. But let's pick back up with the tweet. He said, and referring to Soleimani, he was already attacking our embassy and preparing for additional hits in other locations. Iran has been nothing but problems for many years. Let this serve as a warning that if Iran strikes any Americans or American assets, we have targeted 52 Iranian sites, representing the 52 American hostages taken by Iran many years ago, some at a very high level and important to Iran and Iranian culture, and those targets and Iran itself will be hit very fast and very hard. The USA wants no more threats. So now we've got the Iranians who are essentially saying that they're going to take some military action in response to the assassination of General Soleimani, and President Trump saying, well, be careful if you do so because we got 52 sites in your country already targeted and we're ready to go. And if you try to up the ante, if you try to raise the bar here, if you try to escalate the situation, well, we'll show you what's meant by escalation. We will escalate much further than you will. And by the way, we've got $2 trillion we just spent on military hardware in the Trump administration. We've got a reinvigorated U.S. military. So while we don't want to use it and we don't want to go to war, certainly anywhere in the Middle East, we got to get rid of these wars. As President Trump, he ran on that platform, and I believe he still believes that we do not want to be in these endless wars in the Middle East that are a complete boondoggle for us. But neither can we allow ourselves to be attacked like they attacked our embassy. Neither can we allow Americans to be killed like they've been killing Americans for years, and they just killed an American contractor over there in Iraq, and we cannot allow that to happen. Now, meanwhile, in the United States, the people who should be backing the president up, Congress, they can't do anything except for attack the president. They attack the president about not having informed them in advance. Well, folks, who would inform them in advance, given their extreme disloyalty to this country and the way that they try to use any information that they can get a hold of to try and undermine President Trump and, support their impeachment efforts, which we'll try to get to in just a minute. We want to cover a few other things. But Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, has introduced a war powers resolution that she's trying to get Congress to vote on to force President Trump to cease all hostilities with Iran in the next 30 days. Tim Kaine in the Senate has introduced a similar resolution. And again, I don't think President Trump intends to engage in any ongoing hostilities, but we have to wait and see what the Iranians do now, because if they choose to escalate, and we don't know that they were involved in this Kenya bombing that took place just this morning over in Africa, although the timing certainly is suspicious, but we don't know for sure that they had anything to do with that. That was an al-Qaeda-affiliated group, which would be the Sunnis. But, of course, these folks do sometimes work together under the theory of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So we don't know that that's related, but certainly the timing is suspicious. And another thing that has happened is the Iraqi parliament has voted to have all troops, U.S. troops, leave Iraq. And President Trump has said we will not be doing that unless they want to pay for that big military base that we built over there. We're not going to just abandon that military base that we built. But certainly I think he would like to get the troops generally out of the Middle East, and I think that would be a good thing. And I think we ought to really seriously consider trying to get them to pay for some of that and engaging in a troop drawdown.
Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.